Hey kids, just got hanging out with a couple of guys, Joseph, Snyder, and Chris from LannisterHoldings.com. They've got a long background together. They started off in real estate, moved here and there. Have an Arizona company that they're planning to create the next Silicon Valley for blockchain right there in Arizona. They're dog people. They gonna have a couple of puppies that they take here and there. Got Oakley, and he was sitting there staring Joseph down to take him out for a walk as we were talking. But we had a good talk with these guys. If you are interested in space at all and you want to know more about it, you got a company that you think should be on blockchain, get a hold of these guys. Lannister Holdings, their website, LannisterHoldings.com. Get a hold of those guys. Really smart. They know how to take your project from A to Z and every other letter in between. And they're a publicly held company. They just released on the OTC NBDR. I believe that's what they said. No big deal, right? And so here's our chat with the boys from Lannister Holdings. You guys ready to start the show? All right, let's start the show. Oh my God, they're using a microphone from World War II, and boy, you can
old Soviet technology. Huh?
Yeah, it's, you can hear them in the background. All right, so your girl reached out to me on LinkedIn, and I'm sorry, I forget her name right now. Maritza, and yeah. So what? Is she your hound dog for you guys, where she snoops out opportunities?
Well, she handles our PR and communication.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of scope that goes into that. But yeah, one of those gigs is we just did our reverse merger and took our development company public. We have an internal focus on real estate finance, blockchain-based real estate finance and smart contracts and tokenization use cases in the finance world.
Okay.
But also we've launched Lannister Development now, which is our full stack blockchain development arm. And so we're talking to clients all across the spectrum in industries such as energy and healthcare and government and university, education, oil and gas, about the different blockchain use cases and how they fit in their verticals and what they're looking to build. And it's been a pretty interesting little ride here. So we're doing the media circuit and kind of having this conversation with folks. And we're a U.S. based, full stack blockchain development, publicly traded blockchain development company. And so it puts us in a position to build really amazing things across many, many verticals while deploying blockchain technology for our own internal, use cases and ideas as well.
Okay, so you're using blockchain there at your place of business.
Yeah, so we're building a platform to issue real estate loans on blockchain, and then we're looking at tokenization use cases for the back end and transaction of notes after they've been established.
Okay, and
that's our internal focus.
Oh, okay. And the tokenization, is that going to be available to people living in the States, or is that something for everyone else except us?
That's an interesting question. We're still working through those processes. We went and did a reverse merger to be public first because we believe that regulation in and around the crypto token markets and the blockchain spaces in general is the way of the future.
Yeah.
We don't believe as a use case that, the powers that be are going to continue to allow all this capital raising and things with people just basically saying, no, this isn't a security, we promise. And
we promise. We promise.
we promise.
Cross your fingers.
So, yeah. And so with that belief,
yeah.
We as an already regulated company, as we move through the processes of finishing what we consider our reverse merger, which is lots of financials and lots of filings and compliance and things like that we are working with our attorneys and we're working with experts in the space, and we're meeting more experts in the space and really drilling into these use cases from the financial and the legal standpoint of how do we do these things moving forward with assets, right?
Yeah.
We believe that the tokens that we would issue would probably definitely be securities. And
probably
so
definitely.
And so, look, and it's a malleable space because the rules have not yet been completely determined.
Yeah.
And so we went to the OTC market to be publicly traded in order to look at how we get liquidity for scale and how we have a scaled conversation with the market and, how we get, engagement with our stakeholders. And we went that way instead of an ICO at the time because the unknown risk associated with an ICO was just too great for us to accept.
Yes.
Are there downsides and expenses to being a publicly traded company, even, OTC or NASDAQ or whatever that is? Absolutely. And it's an onerous process and it's tough and it's it's regulatory heavy,
Yes.
but
mm-hmm.
it puts us in a position to do public filings about our ideas for these token use cases, to go to the, Securities Exchange Commission and FINRA, and, that we're based in Arizona. So, just the financial licensing inside the state of Arizona and all of those things, and have a conversation and say, is this the way that we can do this correctly, repeatedly moving forward? Because from our internal focus, we're talking about real estate finance, which, that business is of obtaining, capital, deploying it into, well understood, risk mitigated loans on real assets, and then generating income and interest income. And, in the traditional market, once that's bundled together, that's called a mortgage-backed security. And what we're looking at is, how do we issue those? How do we bundle those? How do we build those tools and those systems in that platform and end up with something that can go out of that ecosystem to bring in additional capital, and where those people have a known or, risk mitigated ROI, there's income streams, there's payment streams, so there's all this conversation in the space about, do you deploy it like it's a bond? Is it a security? Is it equity? Is it, are we just saying it's utility and you get to use it for something someday, so it's not a security? And so, sorry to go on a tirade on you, but, all of those things come into play when you're looking at how does a company use tools like this, technology like this, and build out systems that aren't just one-shot wonders or aren't just single-time fundraising events. And how do these things apply? How do these new technologies apply and overlap and disrupt and integrate with the existing tools and frameworks and legal structures that are already existing?
The 100-year-old legal structure that is governing what's happening right now, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's exactly right.
Yeah.
And it's an interest. It's a beautiful time to be engaged in the space, which Chris and I get the distinct pleasure of just being at that moment.
Yeah.
Which is super, super, super cool because there's so much blue ocean on the what can this do and how do we integrate it and does it affect my business? And I know it affects my business and we believe we can save X amount. So, and we're getting to have all of these conversations because of our front end for hire US-based blockchain development teams. And those are super cool conversations to have on that other side of, but those clients also get the added benefit of all of this work that we're doing internally to understand the use cases and understand the legality and put together our legal teams that have the experience in the space and put together our financial guys who are looking at the tax implications of, crypto on asset sheets, looking at the implications of how does this, how is this capital that's being accumulated designated on a balance sheet, and how does that move forward? And so it's a really interesting space. There's a lot of technicality on the business side, but there's so much blue ocean on the utilization side. It's just a blast. And with that, I'll let Chris talk for a minute, because I never shut up.
All right, Chris.
It's quite the lead in. Here's all this business stuff. By the way, Chris, have fun. Go ahead and talk.
Yes. Give us your 2 cents, brother.
It really is a very interesting time to be getting into this. I mean, you're talking about an emerging technology, and like you said, there's a lot of these people out there who are offering ICOs and basically using it as a funding structure without any real, I wouldn't say without any real, it's not entirely honest, but without any true utilization case for why the blockchain or why selling it as an ICO is necessarily better than the other way. And sometimes the reason it's better is because it's not currently regulated, which 99.999 times out of 100 doesn't end well for people.
No,
Uber is the shining example of let's not listen to the regulators, right? But there's 10,000 jitney companies before them who got massive slaps before Uber came along, got enough money to just not care. So it's a question of, on that side, it's a question of risk, really. The kind of idea of this whole space, right, is that the internet and modern society and globalization, which is a term that is sort of malleable in this sense, doesn't really fit with those 100-year-old rule sets that we're currently working inside of. Not at all. But at the same time, the reality is that the people with the guns in the prisons are the ones that run the rule set. And I don't really want to run afoul of them, because I kind of like, living with my wife.
Yeah.
So there's this question of, how do we find the balance between we're disrupting a lot of things. We're disrupting massive pieces of technology and massive amounts of regulation, and just the way the world runs in general. And how do we do that in a way that doesn't run afoul of common sense and the things that really we need to be doing? These regulations are in place sometimes, not always, but a lot of the times these kind of regulations are in place for a reason, right? There's a reason that jitney companies have been illegal forever. And it's not entirely because the cab companies have all the power. It's also because it's sort of dangerous to get into a random stranger's car and pay them money to take you somewhere, right? Like hitchhiking is not a great idea.
No.
It's sort of related. Financial regulations, corporate regulations, all these things are in place for a reason. These rule sets are built up over a long period of time of people making large mistakes, polluting rivers and doing horrible things to the environment. Whatever things you want, whatever examples you want. So the question is kind of how do we build these technologies in a way that allows us to disrupt these things and allows us to show the public in general, the regulators, the governments, everybody involved, that you can do this in a new way and you can do this in a better way, but at the same time, not just trying to throw it in their face and be like, I'm going to do this a new way, and if you don't like it, too bad, because I feel like the guys with guns show up at your door at some point after that conversation.
Yeah, they do, huh?
They win that argument.
They win. I don't care how many guns you own. They have more.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, but that's not entirely the technology side of it. That's sort of the regulation side of it. There's a lot of interesting use cases coming out just in supply chains and all these different pieces like that are, you have massive economies of scale, and you have all these disparate systems that you can start to bring together within a single but non-centralized system, right? Anything that's transferable or relatable can be done generally inside a distributed ledger. And we're just seeing the beginnings of where this technology is going to go. I mean, in this sense, we're talking mostly about blockchain, but there's the hollow chain that just raised a bunch of capital or whatever. But they have a really interesting idea of not having a centralized blockchain where every individual in this chain has their own disparate piece that is all verifiable by everybody else who is interacting with the same system.
Wow. Okay. Haven't heard about that.
Yeah, it's called Holochain.
Holochain.
They have cool videos on their front page about their overall idea and kind of their idea of their implementation and stuff.
All right.
So there's a long way to go here. We're really at the emergence of this technological piece, and while Bitcoin came out in 10 years ago or whatever now. The implementations have really exploded over the past 2 or 3 years, right? And especially with this whole ICO and tokenization and token generation event that Ethereum allowed people to do, that really took the space to the next level, partly because you can write smart contracts that do really cool things, and partly because a lot of people saw, hey, I can raise a lot of money by selling this thing that I can, make on my computer in a couple hours with a few days of study.
yeah, I guess so.
Yeah, which comes back to the regulation again. I mean, if there's a buyer for it, should they be allowed to buy it? Probably, but should you be allowed to sell it to them while giving future-looking events saying this is going to be the most awesome thing ever and we're going to make lots of money?
Yeah,
I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and I'm going to leave that to someone else to hash out.
Yeah. There's a lot of I talking to a couple of guys yesterday, and they kind of went over a whole thing with me on how you can determine something's a security or a token or a utility, and it was really interesting. And 99% of the time you come back to it's a security. It's not a utility. And a lot of the people they're going, a lot of these people are going to be going to jail, or they're going to be losing their shirts because they did things the wrong way.
Yeah, and I mean, it's not a fun day when the SEC comes and goes, you owe all your investors their money back, plus you owe us 10%.
Yeah. Yeah. So do things right up front. Yeah.
On a bunch of capital that you probably already lit on fire.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
You and your garage really dumb stuff.
Or people, I've heard of people that took Ethereum on something that at a point when it was at an all-time high, and now it's down to nothing, and now they owe, I guess, capital gains or something on what it was when it was at its all-time high.
Or the folks that were running up their credit cards. I mean, the exchanges were letting them buy Ethereum with MasterCard, and I mean, I can't imagine that decision-making process, but
or refinancing their homes to go out.
Can you imagine? Extra $15,000 or $2,000 a year or a month on your new HELOC, and Bitcoin crashes from 18 to 6. Yeah. How much I don't want to do that.
Yeah, there's a lot of. Yeah.
But with that being said, those are funny and ridiculous, and it shouldn't be a speculative. Like, all of these people wouldn't go be trading dollars. There's some people that do Forex stuff, and they're awesome, and I know that there's a lot of capital washing around in there, so that's a cool thing. But average citizens aren't spending their day trading the dollar versus the yen. And basically, a lot of this crypto market is essentially, microeconomic, speculative trading. And that normally doesn't work for the every guy. Those systems seem to be stacked and things like that. With that being said, we do smart contract development, for clients, and we help them connect with lawyers who actually know which ways these things fall. It's actually not that complex to establish your, if you've got your advisory team and your white paper and whatever else, it is not that hard to turn that stuff into the proper legal paperwork that you need to be able to go and, do a Reg D or do a Reg A or, do a Reg D is a private placement filing. So, there's ways to do it within the U.S. as registered that are being tested and are being worked through in real time. There's a building in New York that I think part of the equity was just sold on a smart contract with tokens. I believe a company in Delaware, a publicly traded company in Delaware, just switched out their stock for tokens in the last little while, and that's in the U.S. So a lot of these companies will just still stay offshore. China's closed off, but a lot of them will just stay offshore and do their thing and raise their capital for their use cases. But the other side of that is the folks who are in the U.S., who want to do business in the U.S., who have existing investor groups in the U.S. that are interested in working with them, and then they want to explore using tokens for those security cases, and or their own believed utility case. And so we do the development, we do the front end UX. There is our network of advisors and things that we kind of bring to the table to say, hey, let's put some eyeballs on this. Let's dig into this idea. Let's dig into your use case. And will this work for you? And that's on blockchain development for platforms for middle market logistics. And it's also for smart contracts if folks are, getting ready to go to pre-sale or going to an ICO and they want to look at that. Another thing is with the ERC bug, I think a lot of investors are spooked about whether or not the contracts that their tokens are based on and come from are affected. And so, a lot of the interest that we're seeing right now is interest in coming back and doing security audits on existing smart contracts and existing tokens that are out there, where the investors are coming in and saying, hey, we want to actually know from a third party what's going on in here. Can the company come in and get an audit done? And that's an interesting, piece as well, is, there's starting to be a gravitation, I feel, towards the cream rising to the top. The companies, the contracts that have third party audits done, the companies that are doing, state and federal filings in the US, the companies that are coming through, turning that white paper into the registration framework paperwork, and going that route, because the fundraising systems around what we call an ICO, which is actually a token generation event in most cases.
Yeah.
But the fundraising systems around that are actually freaking beautiful. They're beautiful. They're really well done. They're done on these brand new systems, these brand new social networks. It's all about social validity and brand and name power. And then these white papers are in many, many cases, on the well done ones, they're very well done. They're thoroughly researched. Their MDFs are beautiful. Their presentations are bespoke. That's a beautiful way to go to market with something.
Wow. All right.
And, when you look at the way that we went in saying, we're going to do a reverse merger. We're going to go public on a US OTC market first. I'm taking all of that idea and beauty and what I see as the way for messaging and outreach and communication and transparency, and saying, let's apply that to a publicly traded company right out the gate and do it within the legal framework, do it within the regulations, and with everything done, as properly as we can with the known regulations that are there.
Yeah.
And it's an interesting crossover, because what the ICO world created was actually a much better way to engage and communicate a value proposition on a security offering. The problem is that most of them are still pretending they're not security offerings.
Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, essentially, let's talk about the token event for a moment instead of just ICO as a term, because there is a difference, right? I mean, tokens, you're talking about selling generated tokens on an existing blockchain, generally on Ethereum at this point.
Mm-hmm.
And where an ICO, you're talking about selling an actual cryptocurrency, which is generally the proof of work reward from an individual blockchain itself, which generally those blockchains are dedicated to being a currency, right? Like you have Ethereum and Litecoin and all those different things. Ethereum, just mixing that for a second, but Bitcoin and Litecoin and Bitcoin Cash and Zcash and all those other stuff. That's a blockchain that's running just to be cryptocurrency in general, in most cases. And then Ethereum also has its cryptocurrency Ether, and that is the backbone of the proof of work for the blockchain itself. But that blockchain runs smart contracts inside transactions. And inside those smart contracts, you create these tokens, and then you can sell these tokens or do whatever you want with them and trade them and et cetera, et cetera. But the reason that's really interesting is because, like Joe was saying, it's creating a new way to bring a security to market, right? You're creating something on an automated system inside what they're calling smart contracts, which allows you to ixnay a ton of middlemen who are involved in these market-making structures, and allow people to simply exchange them freely and buy them freely and move them, with simple pieces of code that say, if you deposit this much money within this time frame, you get this many tokens. You can say the same thing about publicly traded stock, right? If you send this many dollars to the market and somebody else has the thing that you want and they're willing to sell it to you, then you're going to get that many shares. The difference is that there's 5 or 6 people that are touching your share, if you're ever actually getting a share, for that transaction to happen. Most of the time, E-Trade is holding a block of shares and putting your name in their database on a certain amount of them. So you're really transitioning the way a public market works, how these security events work, how these securitized pieces work and trade and transact and are bought and purchased and sold and everything else. And when you look at it from that sort of perspective, it's a very interesting new utility for the way that public markets work. And public markets are just a massive chunk of every economy on the planet. It's a massive chunk of the entire planet's economy.
Yeah.
They're very new and they're very fresh. And the people who are much smarter than us figured out that they could abuse them, 2 years ago.
Absolutely. Yeah. Because who's going to question it? If you're just some cat that inherited a bunch of shares from your great grandfather or grandfather, or whatever. I mean, you're still trusting this guy that's been holding it for all these years. You don't know what he's doing with it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So I think this is a great time for people to actually start learning about what's happening with shares and transferring that over into tokens so they can be a little smarter about what they're doing with their money, and hopefully they're looking into whatever company and technology this is do I really want to participate in an ICO?
Well, that sort of comes back to the conversation we were having a few minutes ago about micro cap speculation, essentially. When I, as an average American, I would suppose, I might not be, but maybe I am.
Average American.
As an average American, I think about, okay, I have, let's say I have $10,000 and I want to invest it somewhere. Let me go invest it in the stock market, right? Let me go buy companies. What happens when I do that? Either A, I just throw my money at a wall and say, I'm going to pick, 6 random groups of letters and hope that that's an actual company and that they do something. Mm-hmm. Or I'm going to go spend a lot of time researching individual companies to be the next Warren Buffett when I'm never going to be. Or I go, buy index funds or whatever. And then you come to the ICO crypto coin world and it just goes completely out the window, right? There's this, like, why are you buying Bitcoin today? Why are you buying Litecoin today? Do you see the future use case, or do you just believe McAfee's bet that it's going to be worth $1 million in 2020? There's a disconnect between how people are viewing these things, and there's a major problem there at the moment, as a lot of people saw when it crashed by 2/3 at the beginning of the year. The people aren't necessarily understanding what it is that they're investing in, or a better word, speculating in, and why that thing is going up or down. How many people actually hold this? Who holds the keys to the reason why it went that high? Who's pushing it? Who's pulling it? What is happening inside of there? And not to say that there aren't tons of people doing their research. I absolutely know, lots of my friends do a lot of their research, and there's a lot of people who are getting out on the way up because They figured out, hey, this shouldn't be going up this quickly. There's no reason. There's no new amazing use case that has changed the way the thing works. Like, but at the same time, I was getting an incredible amount of messages from people I haven't talked to since high school saying, hey, should I be buying Bitcoin? I mean, I can't tell you to do that. In my personal opinion, at that time, probably not. But,
yeah.
I'm not a financial advisor. This is not my place. So just because I know about these things doesn't mean I have any idea about the price of Bitcoin, right?
Yeah.
And that should tell you something. I'm a person who runs a development company for blockchain technology. And I have no idea.
yeah. I'm not sitting on the pulse of Bitcoin right now, man.
Yeah. So, there's a huge disconnect, and it's because it's a brand new market. It's because people don't understand what these things represent, right? Like tokenization as a security, as a saleable public security, is a very interesting concept, but most people don't understand what the word public security means to start with. So you're kind of running up against a wall of, hey, should I invest in this? Well, what are you currently investing in?
Yeah, and one thing that it did do that we kind of watched it do and didn't participate in, but one thing that it did do is it took the understanding of at least the word. It took the brand Bitcoin, blockchain, Ethereum, and it made it ubiquitous and known.
Yes, it did.
And I think without the $20,000 spike, which again, unrealistic. I don't know why it went up. I don't know why it went back down. I don't know. I know what it would cost to put together a mining operation and what the electricity and maintenance costs of running a mining operation will cost, and generally the amount of coins I could get out of it, right?
Yeah.
So I could do that math from a business perspective and say, okay, well then Bitcoins would cost me X. Fine. But other than that, I don't know. But what I do know is what has happened and what the positives are for blockchain as a technology, as a core Web 3.0 future of transaction and data security and a lot of things. I do know that it branded that in a global, top of mind sort of a way, and that has opened up, I think, broad interest and broad spectrum in the technologies that underlie this, through the fact that it went crazy and it got all this media attention, and it still has all this media attention. And, there's all these people talking about it, because from a percentage standpoint, there's actually not very many people on the planet that are actually invested in
No, not at all. No.
It's just getting started. And or just getting to a point where it's going to be regulated and then it's going to transform. And so, but that transition and that linking between Bitcoin's meteoric rise and fame, fame and fortune,
yeah.
Literally,
mm-hmm.
And blockchain kind of coming along as it's kind of its operating sister. That is the actual technology that it runs on, and that becoming kind of a household thing where you can say blockchain and people don't go, wait, what is that? I've never heard of that before. And that works for business because, coming into these meetings we're now having, people are starting to look at this and say, yeah, I've heard about crypto and blah, 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 but how does this affect transportation? How does this, we were on the phone the other night with a guy, very, very interesting guy. He's got a manufacturing facility in Hong Kong and I think one in Thailand. And he wants to build a blockchain so that he can source his raw materials and his products in between his own two factories. And that's not a global use case. He's not trying to, go out and raise a bunch of capital to do something. He's looking at this and saying, if I put these tools into place between my own two facilities, I will get all of these, I will have all of this time saved. I will have all of this risk mitigated. I will have all of this cost mitigated. And then maybe I get to take it out and license it and sell it to other manufacturing companies as well.
Yeah.
Right. And that's a really interesting dynamic. And I think it came directly out of the the power and the fame that Bitcoin, achieved by knocking on those crazy doors. And I don't know, maybe it goes back up there and to 1 million. I have no idea. I don't judge. I don't know. I don't own any. And I mean, I'm sure we do somewhere, Chris, right? I mean,
we have quite a bit of crypto.
Okay, so I mean, through some form I do maybe, but I've never gone onto a computer and bought any. I can tell you that.
Really?
No.
Wow.
I just if I don't, I'm a business guy. If I don't understand how I'm deploying my capital and how it is going to go out and do something and come back with a return, I'm probably not. I'm not I take big. Look, I took a company public. We're swinging, so I take big risks. I do, but not speculation. My risks are calculated. I have the experience. I have the team. I have the people. I believe I have the legal advice. I take calculated but big risks. But I'm not big on speculation.
No. All right. Okay, I get it. Now, you say you've never bought this on, never bought a cryptocurrency. But you have some.
We do have some. We have quite a bit, actually. It's just he doesn't actually hold it. I do.
Oh, okay. Okay. All right.
But we have quite a bit. We've actually paid quite a few of our contractors at this point. We do a lot of sort of development projects, web dev kind of stuff. We maybe random people off like Upwork and stuff, depending on little projects we need for a client or things that are outside of our main dev shop. Our main dev shop are paid in US dollars and they have actual employment contracts and all that stuff. But we've found quite a lot of people who doing design or doing certain pieces that will accept cryptocurrency and actually ask them for it. Yeah, they go, hey, do you I'll take US dollars or Bitcoin or Ethereum or and then there's 15 other symbols after those. And it's just whichever is easiest, whichever has the least fees. And PayPal is going to charge me 5 or 10% or whatever, and it's going to cost me $1.50 to send it on Ethereum. So here's your Ethereum. Have yourself a good day.
Absolutely, man. Yeah. We take it too. We take Ethereum or. Yeah, I've taken taken a chance on some coins, so we'll see what happens. They haven't hit the exchange yet, but I believe
we have quite a bit of that where we've gotten we'll take we'll structure deals for our clients that works the best way for everybody, right? So where let's say a development piece would be $50,000 just for a random number. Well, we might take $15,000 or $20,000 in actual USD because we need to cover the cost of our developers and they have to pay them in actual money, blah, blah, blah. And then we can take the rest in crypto or the tokens that these people come up and generate and at a significant discount to their pre-sale events or, whichever way the structure works out best for everybody involved, which ends up with us holding significant chunks of people's tokens, not significant chunk of their actual total token, but a significant chunk of tokens in general, right? You start opening MetaMask and getting the list of tokens that you have in there, and it starts to get long.
Yeah, I just figured that out the other day because some people had been, throwing me tokens here and there and stuff, and I'm like, okay, let me know when you send it, and I'm sitting there waiting when they're like, yeah, we sent it, and I'm like, well, where is it? Because I'm kind of new at the whole MetaMask thing too, and just by picking around, I finally figured out where the heck all that stuff was. And populated my wallet. I'm like, oh wow, look at all the coins I got. That's crazy, And this is something that you it's not common knowledge how to do it, No,
it's actually not. It's a problem we've seen a couple of our clients run into. Is that let's look at we have a client that's in the oil and gas space. And they have a lot of interest. They had a lot of interest in their token sale and then in their platform. And they were going to do this really cool thing with blockchain about the service industry and all this stuff. But they ran into the issue that none of their people who were all oil and gas field and executives and things like that actually had any idea how to get their hands on Ethereum to buy the tokens that they're trying to sell.
Yeah.
So there's still quite a bit of a disconnect there between, there's this awesome blockchain thing and ICOs and cryptocurrency and all this stuff. Okay, well, how do I get my hands on it?
Wow.
Well, you open a Coinbase account and then you wait 2 weeks for them to approve
you wait 2 weeks. Yeah, it's worse than opening up a freaking checking account. I mean, at least when you walk out of the bank, they give you temporary checks. Coinbase doesn't give you a temporary wallet. They just say, "Well, we'll get back with you."
Yeah, we'll put those funds on hold, and then good luck.
Yeah,
We'll talk to you in a week.
Yeah,
We'll send you an email when it's ready.
Oh my God, yeah, it's a big jump to get into this, and a lot of people may not have the patience for it.
Well, and that's also how how we add more value as well, though. I mean, yes, we are a full stack blockchain development team on the client facing side, but also we're able to work with that client in particular and say, okay, let's revisit this. What are you trying to achieve with this? We understand the blockchain use, we understand the token utilization within the ecosystem that you want to build, but right now you have whatever millions of dollars in commitments of people that do want to participate in this deal.
Yeah.
And, now let's explore the legal structures. And I'm not a lawyer and I'm not giving legal advice, but, as a think tank and as a consultative organization, Lannister Development is there to say, let's connect you with the attorney and let's explore the structure that lets you take U.S. dollars from U.S. citizens legally and go through that process, and then maybe go back out to your token use case and things like that, because you've got this demand, people want in, they've got money, and so don't be so stuck on ICO that you ignore funding. There are traditional structures where you can go out and have those people come in and bring you capital, and potentially even work that in as we're working through with different, regulators and seeing how these things work, but potentially even work it in where, they get tokens as well later, depending on what those use cases are.
Yeah.
And so that's a consultative process with a client that has a lot of demand, a really interesting use case, a very scaled existing platform of participants. And, the crypto actually created a barrier instead of solving a solution at that moment in time.
Wow.
And so, but we're able to work with them, not only just to say, hey, well, we built your smart contracts. Okay, well, here's scope 1, scope 2, scope 3, milestone 1, 2, 3 for your platform development, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But also to say, okay, what's the actual goal here? You've got all these people that want into this deal, and you need to be able to take their funds. So we need to get you with a securities attorney, and that's affordable and not blah blah blah, understands crypto, and have this conversation. Say, how do we accept this money, and how do we move past this, and how do we do it in a time frame that works for everybody?
Yeah.
And there's magic there because the space is just opening up, and I think that the folks who are taking a look at not just building these tools, there's large swaths of development teams all over Eastern Europe that can build almost anything you want on blockchain. I promise you.
Oh yeah.
But they're not going to be able to look at things from an American use case or American consumer or American legal standpoint, and we want to work internationally. We were having a conversation with a school in Colombia just this, yesterday and today. So we want to work internationally, but we believe that there's a lot of value to coming out from a consultative approach and saying, we can build all these things, but we can also work with you to make sure that, your compliance teams are looking at the right things, and any experience that we have on our internal development or any experience we have with other clients, we're going to bring that to bear and deliver that for you. And that's kind of Lannister Development's mission as Chris, builds it out with the dev team side. My end is to make sure that the customer success and achieving their goals, and it's not just fundraising. Platform utilization is a real, that's a real trick to scale something out and get it deployed and get it utilized inside a business in the real world. And watch those overlap points and, mitigate the downside risk and, avoid just making everything worse for an elongated period of time. There's always a challenge and a pain point in just disrupting existing systems and integrating new tech, right? We all know that those pain points exist, but doing that in a way that, yields better results and has a smoother flow. We're agile focused and remote work. And so, it's really kind of a magic trick, and it's fun to participate in, especially from the business side. I know Chris gets to geek out on all the code stuff.
So Chris is more of the guy that's with a computer and writing all this stuff. Do you write the code and everything?
I do. I'm a software developer by training and by profession.
Yeah.
Joe and I've been, we're brothers, by the way.
Oh, okay, cool.
Well, we've been working together for years now. We've built insurance companies and real estate companies and all sorts of stuff. And I've always handled all the development work for all of that stuff, but also been an actual, sit in an office and write code, software developer.
Yeah.
I don't handle the majority of the code that our team is writing because I've built a team for that specific purpose.
Yeah.
But yeah, I absolutely know how to write the code to do all these things. Well, most of these things. I would say all these things.
Yeah.
There's people in my team who are much smarter than I am. It's just the way.
Yeah, that's the best way to live. In case anybody's wondering, find everybody that's smarter than you and tell them how awesome they are and let them do their thing.
Absolutely, yeah. That's the best way to do business.
Yeah,
that is.
Don't get people to kiss your ass.
Don't want to do and.
Yeah. Don't get the pretty girl. Don't get just because she's hot and you want to have her to work in the office. Surround yourself with people smarter than yourself. Yeah.
Well, we don't even want an office if we can avoid it at all costs. So
no. Yeah. Well, that's just
your remote team.
And is it something that's just completely left turn at the left turn only? Or left turn at the right only stoplight to learn how to do blockchain?
No, not at all.
No.
It's a lot of it's built in C++ and Go. General, Go was created 5-6 years ago, probably closer to 10 now by Google.
Yeah.
As a multi-threaded programming language, and it's become a sort of a standard for starting to build new enterprise systems and things. And a lot of the stuff is built on, basically you can look at the way that software has been moving as an iterative approach, right? This whole cloud thing that came along over the past decade or so has really changed the way that software works and the way that enterprise works. And a lot of work that we have done previously and some of the work that's in our current company, but not all of it, is looking at, how do companies go from their own actual server architecture into cloud architecture. That was the big thing for the past few years, really. And then this blockchain step is sort of the next step in that direction. How do you decentralize more? How do you move away from having, how do you have less overhead, more efficiency again on top of that? And it's sort of just a progression of software development. I mean, yes, there's an entire swath of technologies to learn, and there's an entire paradigm of how these things work that the developers have to understand and learn to work with and learn to work inside. But it's not like you're going from, I'm a Major League Baseball player to now I'm going to be a software developer or something. What I mean? It's not a complete change of mindset. It's still writing software. It's still developing pieces. It's still working with tools that are either existing or being built currently. And it's something that's generally within the wheelhouse of most software developers.
Who are curious and interested. I'll always come back to curious. We are a curious company. Because just like you, right? You had a lot of questions and you didn't feel like you were getting the answers, and so you said, "All right, how do I solve that?
Yeah,
I can keep asking. I can go to Reddit boards and just bash my face against the wall, or I can start a podcast and say Crypto the Wonder Dog, and I'm going to ask the people that are right. I mean, and basically, I'm going to ask the people that are pretending they know."
Exactly. Yeah. Because the veterans in the space. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. The veterans in this space. These old hands, and so it does require a level of curiosity, but that's learning almost anything. There's not enough people out there who are looking at these things right now, who are in junior high and who are in high school, We did an interview with Jesse K, the 20 Under 20 podcast, and I don't think it's come out yet. But this kid's 17 years old. He's amazing. He's dynamic. Although that's great, but a lot of that was me really drilling into like, hey, we need you guys paying attention to these things because these are really, really cool. And if you're going to be learning, if you're interested in coding and you're gonna go learn, a software language, this is where we would recommend you look, because the need for that human volume of knowledge and power and the next generation of tools that get built on this are going to be coming out of that next crop of software engineers and that next crop of coders and white hat hackers or whatever. So it's it really is an interesting thing where the people who are curious, like Chris, just rabbit holes on stuff and comes out with, hey, and then
look what I found.
And, look what I found, holochain, yay! I'm like, cool.
You're like, cool. What is it?
That's awesome. Yeah. But curiosity leads the way, and asking better questions and just asking questions. I think so much of success is just being willing to walk up and knock, be like, hey, can I do this? Or, walk up and look around and do something and go, is that cool? I think there's a balance between those two. But, just that curiosity and taking action. And I think anybody that is an existing coder, jump into it and dig down into it a little bit. And, cause there's a lot coming. There's a lot of work coming. And I know we're going to be looking to hire aggressively in the space. We're based in Phoenix, Arizona. We have an Arizona first kind of a mission and message. We believe that Arizona and Phoenix in particular could be the blockchain tech hub of the USA.
Really?
They have absolutely.
Wow.
The political will is there. The governor's signing multiple blockchain bills. Blockchain signature is now legal. They've created a blockchain sandbox on how to engage and work with the government. We had our choice of where to go. I'm sitting in California as I say this.
Oh, really?
And so, and our public company, so we did a reverse merger, and so we're publicly traded on the US OTC market under the ticker symbol NBDR, which Chris likes to say, no big deal, right? We just went public, no big deal, right? But
no big deal, right?
that company that we acquired and merged with is actually a Nevada corporation. And so we operate out of our subsidiary company in Arizona. So Lannister Development is registered in Arizona. We have the trade name in Arizona. And so, we are really inviting and asking, veterans. Specifically, Chris is a veteran, Air Force veteran.
Oh, I saw that. Yeah, I'm a brother with you. I was in the Air Force too. Right on.
Nice.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah.
So we're absolutely inviting veterans who are interested to, reach out and talk to us. We've got some interesting resources on rabbit holes that they can start on and things. We don't have any kind of formal training program yet, but junior high and high school kids, there's a lot of stuff. We've put up a couple scholarships, and we're working to deploy a couple scholarships this summer.
Really?
For kids in tech and to get into blockchain and
build cool things that's awesome.
And show them off.
And then where are they going to go to learn this?
What's that?
Where do they go to learn that?
Well, it's actually again, we're totally remote work, and we like to stay that way with our ideology. So the idea is that we're putting together two scholarships, and Chris will know more about the technical requirements. But basically, we want some late high school kids or going into college to create some tools with blockchain and then submit them online. So there'll be a page on the Lannister Development website, and they'll submit them online, and then they'll get ranked. And then two of them will win, scholarships.
Wow, that's awesome.
So the scholarships go towards, whatever they want to use. It's a cash scholarship. So,
okay.
And I think it's what was it? Was it $500 each, Chris, or $1,000?
Yeah, something like that. I think it was $1,000.
Yeah, something like that. It was $1,000. Okay.
Yeah. The scope and everything aren't fully defined yet, so it's not actually posted or anything yet. It's something
we're
working
posted
on
yet.
building. But,
okay.
We've got the funds set aside for it. They're not giant scholarships. It's not going to pay your way through Harvard or anything. But
but if kids are wanting to learn how to write on blockchain code, or I don't even know how you how you say that, but if they're wanting to learn how to develop blockchain, where do they go?
Develop blockchain technologies.
Yeah, where do they go?
At the moment, you go to Google, like everything else in the world, mostly.
Wow.
A great place to start really is the GitHubs for the individuals. So you can look at blockchain core or Bitcoin core. You can look up the Ethereum platform. Both of those are on GitHub. And if you're coming from zero background, that's going to be way over your head. So if you're coming from absolute zero, you can go to like Udemy or Code Academy or something and start taking. Generally, I would start with something fairly simple. You're going to create some web dev projects, do some JavaScript, stuff like that. And then from there, you would move into actually reading the documentation and taking courses on C++ or Go. I would say go with Go if you're going to start with one of those, just because you'll have a better sort of a better way into the newer technologies around like Ethereum and stuff. And then once you're there, dig into the random GitHubs. I mean, most of these blockchains that you're going to think of off the top of your head, the code is all public and just sitting there on GitHub. So you can dig in, you can learn how it works, you can go compile it yourself, you can start running nodes on your own computer, and really start to nerd out on how these things work and what it looks like when they're operating and what it takes to make it happen and why it works and what it does and everything else. So it's a decently involved process. It's not like, it's not like we're saying, a high school kid with no programming experience is going to come in and create blockchain pieces.
Yeah.
It's not generally how these things work. It's more people who are already technically oriented, who are already creating their own apps or creating their own web apps and creating their own, little scripts and stuff on their computer, things like that. Like those are the kinds of kids who are going to come in and be like, well, I've already automated all my homework, so I don't have to actually do anything the rest of the year. Let's find something interesting to go do instead.
Yeah.
And we love that, right? And we absolutely love that, because that is the next generation of people who get to explore these worlds and dive into all of these really interesting and fun little rabbit holes. And so it's a lot of fun, but we're looking to scale aggressively in Arizona. We're looking to make an impact there and really help to establish with so one of our guys is kind of spinning off and starting the Arizona Blockchain Project, which is actually going to be, they're registering as a nonprofit.
Wow. All
and right. So because, we have connection, we've connected with the universities, we've connected with the government and had this conversation with other blockchain development companies and other mining companies and people in the crypto and blockchain space in and around Phoenix. And the idea is really resonating. The government support is there. ASU, has their blockchain club, and we did a podcast interview with them and their ASU blockchain podcast. And there's all of this momentum there. And the thing that we felt we were kind of running into was, as a for-profit, publicly traded company, us running around saying community engagement, inclusion. It's very, very true, and it's a beautiful blue ocean space. But at the end of the day, people are looking at it and they're like, yeah, you guys are a for-profit company.
Yeah,
we know what you want. We know what you want out of this at the end. And so, that conversation kind of happened. And so the Arizona Blockchain Project was kind of idealized and born. And so Kyle has taken the position of president with Arizona Blockchain Project, and he's going to be working to make sure from a third party, perspective, and he's a shareholder for sure, but from a third party perspective, he's going to be making sure that, he's connected with all these other blockchain companies and the government and the universities, et cetera, to build up that community awareness and that ideology of, we can plant our flag here in Phoenix around blockchain as a core technology and development focus that provides high-paying jobs, new tech, all of these wonderful assets to an area, and impact Phoenix that way. Seattle's got Amazon and Starbucks and high tech, and San Francisco owns venture capital and private equity.
Yeah.
And LA owns the garment district. And then New York has finance.
LA owns the port of LA.
Yeah.
LA owns the port of Los Angeles.
Yeah.
And, but everybody's kind of got their flag. And, Phoenix is a wonderful, vibrant city. Chris is a graduate of ASU, is an ASU alumni.
All right.
And our family's out there. So, we love the area, and we love the support from the community and from the legislator and, the local governance, because we have to operate within local governance. We can only deploy our technologies, on the street somewhere that is going to let us test them and let us try these things. And, having signatures, be recognized as legal on blockchain is a big first step for being able to transact real estate finance in this medium. Signatures are kind of part of that.
Wow. Okay. And well, let me ask you, who would be the right candidate to contact you? Who do you want to be contacting you guys?
Depends for what, really.
Yeah, I mean, anybody with a company that's looking at how blockchain could impact their business.
Okay.
Or an industry association looking at how blockchain can impact their industry in general and specific companies within their industry. From a client-facing side, we do work with token generation and smart contracts and auditing. From an employee standpoint, we are looking for a lot of different pieces still to add to the team. We've got a great core team and a lot of capability already on staff. But we are growing, and we are looking to add, blockchain developers and everything else. Chris can talk more about that. But from the client-facing side and the business side specifically, we're looking to talk to governments. We're looking to talk to, large corporations. Like I said, even middle market companies with a couple of manufacturing facilities, and how does something work between them? We're having conversations with companies large and small, literally every single day.
Wow.
And
okay.
So, the use cases are really interesting to dig into on a continual basis, but there's a lot of interest out there and there's a lot of demand. And the fact of the matter is that deploying these technologies, it's cost effective, it's value adding, and it's risk mitigating, and it is not long in the tooth. It's really, really interesting to be in this space of the market right now, because we have a lot of demand and a lot of interest and a lot of very interesting use cases.
Yeah.
And we want more. We want to talk to everybody. I mean, it's a fun playground.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we have your, obviously, if they want to get a hold of you, they go to your website here, and we have that up on the screen. We have all the links to that, and then you have. Are you guys active on like Telegram or Instagram, Twitter, Facebook?
We're on Twitter, so at Lannister NBDR. At Lannister NBDR is the official company Twitter, and then there's another one for me, which is at Lannister CEO. So we are on Twitter there, and then the website, and then obviously, the whole team's on LinkedIn, and all that. So, we are on there. You can definitely find us. The website has a contact form, so that's a great way to reach us as well.
Okay.
And we are publicly traded on the OTC market under the ticker symbol NBDR, and that's a reverse merger that we just recently completed. So we're still finishing up a lot of stuff regarding that and moving that along the chain, and that's been an adventure as well. But it's been great to meet you, Dean, and I really appreciate your time and
absolutely
enjoy the show. So thanks for having us on, for real.
Yes, great time. Chris. Fellow Air Force veteran, and, where were you stationed?
Beale.
All right. I was at March.
Oh, very nice.
Yeah.
I was I got the pleasure of being considered deployed in garrison, which meant I never actually went anywhere.
Yeah. I didn't either, man.
Good times.
I was on mobility one time, and we were supposed to go to Diego Garcia, and I got on a KC-135, and we taxied down the runway, and they turned around and taxied right back and let us off. Didn't get to go.
Just kidding, you're not going anywhere.
Yeah, it was like, just kidding. Psych. So that was my.
Ours was. I showed up after training and everything, and they went, so by the way, you're deployed in garrison, so you might as well not even fill out your deployment sheet because you're not going anywhere. Oh, sweet.
You're not going anywhere. Just you're walking.
Yeah.
Yeah. All
That's
right.
fantastic.
Yeah. What years were you in there, man?
That was from 2002 to 2006.
Wow. All right. Well, I feel old, man. I was in there from 85 to 89. And
Man.
and then I did.
Well, you shouldn't feel old. You are old, but you shouldn't feel old. I mean,
I don't. You know, I other than my back going out for the stupidest reasons, yelling at the kid to get off my lawn. That was
Yeah. Young's hard.
yoga, man. You gotta do yoga.
Too loud. Yeah.
yelling at a kid to get off my lawn and throw my back out. Yeah, I know what you mean. All right, well, you guys, it was great having you guys on. I'll be, putting this up here really soon, and hopefully stay in touch with you guys. Let us know what else is going on. You guys are always welcome back here anytime. Bring your puppy with you too.
Awesome.
I see your dog on here. What's the name?
Oakley.
Oakley.
Oakley the Wonder Dog.
Oakley the Wonder Dog. Right on. We'll get Oakley
Yeah.
and Crypto together and.
He's sitting right here staring at me going, Dad, let's go to the dog park.
Let's go.
Go
I want to go play.
somewhere. Why are you talking on a phone so long?
I've got mine trained to just sleep all day.
That's the way to do it. That's the way to do it. They're huskies. I have Oakley and Willow, 2 huskies, and so the weather finally turned here. I'm in the Tehachapi Mountains north of LA, so I'm up at about 4,000, 5,000 feet.
Oh wow! Okay.
And so it just turned, and so they're super unhappy. They hate anything over 70. They're like, this is I don't like this.
No.
I don't want to do this. I'm gonna go home.
It's too hot.
And I'm like, woo, it's nice out, yay!
Yeah. Oh man. All right. Well, you guys have a good rest of your day. Take the puppies for a walk, and talk to you soon.
It was great to meet you, and we will definitely stay in touch, man. Have a great day.
Please do. I'll be right here.
All right.
See you.